On this podcast, we talk to Sagar from Bengaluru Motorcycles on the maintenance that you can do, as well as things that you should be looking at, especially when it comes to cleaning and greasing all those parts. Hi, Sagar. Welcome to the Motor Podcast.
Hi, Soeb. How are you?
I'm good. I mean, we've been seeing you guys do some fabulous maintenance jobs on the bikes that are coming in. So we thought we'd get you on our regular podcast. Yeah, go on.
It's nice. We have been working for some time, and we deal with all sorts of motorcycles, and I have my garage. It is based in Kamanali, Bangalore.
Yeah.
And I think it is first, and we have a special kind of garage at the same time. It's called a DIY garage, so someone can always come and they can work on their own motorcycles. I don't believe there is any other DIY garage in Bangalore or even in India.
Yeah.
So that is one of our specialty.
Yeah.
And we have been getting a lot of items from Moto Asher at the same time to maintain some of the motorcycles we get.
Yeah. So let's get into your history. I mean, I mean, what kind of, why did you get into the opening up your own garage, and what kind of experience you bring to people's bikes and getting them repaired?
Yeah. So initially, I was always into motorcycling. So initially, I started working with Rajputana Custom Motorcycles. They're based in Jaipur. So they mostly do a lot of customization jobs, like on Royal Enfield motorcycles and different sort of motorcycles. So I worked with them for for some time. And then I got to learn a lot of fabrication, fabrication side of the motorcycle maintenance.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of fabrication jobs, worked on different sort of motorcycles. And then I moved to Australia I was in Australia for last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So they had this garage. It's called Custom Commune. And it's a DIY garage. People bring their bikes in, like old vintage motorcycles, and they restore it by themselves, taking their own time at their own pace, at their own terms. So I liked that concept. So I thought I will bring similar sort of concept in India. So I came back during the COVID times because I had to come back. It was very uncertain at that time what had to be done. So I came back, and in Bangalore, I've set up my garage. So it's not just a DIY garage. It's a mixture of like a regular service garage, and then at the same time, if someone really likes to work on their own motorcycles, they want to do some customization, fabrication, they can always come to my garage and they can work. And I have a good quality of tools. And most of the spares I have stocked up. So whatever is required, I already have in my garage. We assist them. Whatever their problems are, whatever their queries are, they can always take our help, and they can work on their own motorcycles, and they get to learn a lot at the end of the whole DIY session.
Yeah.
If someone wants to service their own bike, they can come in, spend some time with us, and from top to bottom, we walk along with them, and they get a properly maintained bike at the end of the session, and they get to learn a lot. And maybe next time they would know if they're stuck somewhere what to do without getting scared.
Rush into a garage.
Yeah.
Right. No, that's a good concept. I mean, very few garages in India do that. But I'm glad that you guys are doing that. So I'm gonna come directly to the point of the podcast, which was a little detail that we required you to share knowledge on. It was to do with cleaning, lubing, or greasing. Okay, so these are three important things that most bikers I believe is a neglected task. So I thought let's get into it and ask you the first question, which is how important is regular maintenance when it comes to cleaning, greasing, and lubing?
I think it is one of the most important aspects of maintenance of a motorcycle, because it requires a little bit of time and effort.
Mm-hmm.
But if you put in that effort, you get you get a motorcycle which is much more safer to ride, and it is much more pleasant to ride at the same time. And after some time, if you want to sell the bike, then you get good value out of it.
Yeah.
Because no one would want to buy a properly rusted bike. So if you don't, it is one of those things which is neglected. I've seen a lot of customers who come into my garage. They have like rusty chain sprockets, or like they will have very hard cone sets, the steering stem cone sets. Also, they will have, and so yeah, I mean, like regular maintenance of like if you regularly lube and grease all the moving parts in your bike, it will give you like it will be much more safer to ride a bike, because at the end of the day you want to ride something which is like which makes you feel better, which makes you feel safer on the road. Even if you don't want to get a performance out of it, like be it any kind of a bike, a 1000 cc bike or a 100 cc bike, you have to feel safe while riding a bike. So yeah, I think if any of the moving parts they're not glued together and they are properly rusted, then yeah, it's not good.
Yeah.
So for example, like for example, like a clutch cable, all the operating cables, you have to regularly lube them. The clutch, like all the clutch lever, the brake lever, and it is also good on the clutch. So you will end up saving, like you will end up getting a longer clutch life if your operating like clutch cable is properly lubed, and the clutch lever is properly lubed. So that is why, yeah. So I know it, like it gives you better control, prevents parts from rusting. So yeah.
Yeah. So I think the regular maintenance part is definitely, I think, one of the things that I understood from what I did with my motorcycle was, if you want to make it run like the way the manufacturer wanted it to run, you've got to keep these things in check.
That's true.
So that's interesting. So what are the parts? What are the parts of a motorcycle that require this type of maintenance?
Like I already mentioned, for example, all the operating cables you have to have to be lubed regularly with every service, with every general service. The brake cable, the brake lever, the clutch lever have to be greased with every service. You have to take care of the swing arm bushes, because if they are not maintained properly, then you get rear wheel wobble. Like your rear wheel starts wobbling after some time. So that happens because your swing arm is not properly maintained. Chain sprocket, for example, has to be lubed. Otherwise, you get a rusty chain sprocket, and it reduces the life of both chain and sprockets. So that is something which has to be. And if like once you every time you change a front wheel bearing or a rear wheel bearing or a sprocket bearing, sometimes you get a part which are already greased, in the packaging, so you don't have to worry about that. But sometimes if you're buying an aftermarket part, or which you see is not greased, so if you're putting a front wheel bearing in the front wheel, you have to make sure that it is properly greased. Then only you put it. Otherwise, yeah, you end up shortening the life of the part. So yeah, some of these parts. So basically all the moving parts in a bike have to be lubed or greased at regular intervals. All the bearings, everything.
Yeah. So there's a concept of a W, which is followed by a lot of people, which is you start off with the front wheel. So the front wheel, and then I think you come up to your steering.
So yeah, and the front wheel basically, it starts with the front wheel. So if in case you are changing a front wheel bearing, you have to make sure that the bearing is greased first, and then you put it into the hub. Then after that, make sure that the brake lever, the clutch lever, the operating cables, all those are lubed properly. Then you look at if you have a rusty cone set or the steering stem bearing. Then if you're changing it, then make sure that you have a good amount of grease. That you have to apply good amount of grease on top of it so that it doesn't rust with time. Because when you park a bike in rain, most of the times the steering set is exposed. So it has to be properly greased. And also, always better to use some better products while doing such jobs. So then after that, the brake lever pins, the clutch lever pins, if on the bike, those bits have to be, like if those assemblies are like the brake lever pins, the gear lever assemblies, all the cams, the brake lever cam, all those bits have to be properly greased to get the bike running in full capacity. After that, you have to take care of the chain and sprocket. the sprocket bearing, the rear wheel bearing, the rear suspension bushes. So yeah, these are some of the bits. The center stand. If your bike have a center stand,
Yeah.
make sure that the center stand pin is properly taken care of. The side stand spring and the pins, those bits should be properly taken care of.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've got a good experience though. So while I was riding 2,000 kilometers without cleaning or greasing anything. By the end of the journey, like 200 kilometers before the end of the journey, I started having this where you press the front brake and the brake would it would engage, and you would see the front not come back up properly back. And the reason that I realized and I saw was that just the fact that the screw that goes through the front lever on the mounting, because of dirt, it had started jamming. So basically, it was not letting the lever come back. Not come back outside. So basically, you brake and it still stays down, never came back up. And then, so these are the things, like you said, that they need to be cleaned, greased. And I think
also one of the major things which I missed out is the brake calipers.
Yeah.
So the brake calipers, there are different sort of brake calipers. Some of them they actually move on this. So when you press on the brake, they move on the joints where they're attached on top of the brake rotor.
Yeah.
So and they have these two dampers, basically it's called brake caliper dampers. So with every service you have to make sure that those two dampers are in good condition. And if you're changing the two brake caliper dampers, you have to grease them initially. Otherwise, what will happen is the piston wouldn't come out properly, or you will end up ruining the front brake rotor or the rear brake rotor, whatever it is. So the brake caliper has to be taken care of with every service. It has to be properly cleaned with a proper product, and then greased with new brake caliper dampers.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, I had a question on what can go wrong with all these, but I'm going to ask you, over your experience, what has been the worst impact on performance of a motorcycle that you have seen because of not cleaning and greasing?
So I think last week I got a classic 350, and he had a chain. So he had not been maintaining his chain and sprocket regularly. So with every, if you are going on a longer rides, you have to make sure that you carry a chain tube with yourself, so that you can regularly leave the chain. So we looked at he told me that he has got some sound coming from the rear part of the bike. So when we looked at the bike, the chain sprocket, the rear sprocket had no teeth at all. It was like a proper round circular shape. And so that was one of the, so that I've not seen that before. That was very funny to see as well.
Yeah.
So that happens because he was running on a proper dry chain, rusty chain. And then, so you will not get that kind of performance out of a bike at the same time, and you will face all these kind of issues. Also, another Himalayan I had got, it was very hard to ride the Himalayan because his steering set, the steering stem set, it was very fully rusted. So it was very hard to steer it.
Yes, so thanks for that. That's good info. I mean, I know every garage has horrible stories about how people have kept their bikes. But yeah, I think the underlying thing is if you keep it well maintained by doing such things, your bike is going to run well. That's about it. So, I mean, there are a few upgrades that a lot of people do when it comes to such movable parts. What are the ones that you can think of, and what have you done?
See, right now, for example, in terms of products, what you can do, you can use better products. Like you can use a waterproof grease to make sure that the front, the steering set doesn't get rusted with water, because most of the times when the bike is standing, it is a little exposed in most of the bikes. So also you can always use aftermarket products. Like for example, there was an R3 which we had gotten and it had front cone set issues. So we changed and the R3 have a tapered, the cage type rollers. So we used the tapered kind of roller bearings for it, because the roller bearings are properly covered inside this metallic cage in the tapered kind of stem bearing. Also, it gets a lot more surface area, so it can move much more freely, and it never skids on the raceways. It always rolls, as opposed to the cage type roller bearing. And we use waterproof grease by Maxima to just grease it properly, so that the water doesn't go inside. Apart from that, in terms of chain sprocket maintenance, there are different sort of products. There is Motul C5, like a paste which we uses, so that which is much more better when you run a bike in rain, because it adheres properly to the chain, so it doesn't get washed away with water. So some of these products like chain wax by Maxima is pretty good to use, because it will properly adhere to the chain. And it will not wash away with the water. So, and at the end of the day, like everyone, if someone has a bike, they have to do their own research, because someone might feel comfortable with something, someone might feel comfortable with another thing, and it is all based upon the experiences what you get. So I always tell customers to use all these products, and then if they don't like it, they can always research a little more about it, about what all products are still available out there. So that is what it is, I feel.
Great. I think, Sagar, you've given us some good information. For people who want to check Sagar and his garage, Sagar, you can tell us the garage again, and if you have an Instagram handle so people can start following you.
So my garage is based in Kamanali. It's on Kamanali main road, and it's called Bengaluru Motorcycles. It's a very simple name, so that people can, it's very easy to remember. Yeah. And my Instagram handle is with the same name, Bengaluru Motorcycles, and it's a different sort of garage. So you can, if you ever want to work on your own motorcycle, you can always come by, and we'll help you out with whatever requirement you have. So yeah, it's open for everyone. Like from 100cc to 1000cc, we do all sort of bikes. Yeah. There is no discrimination against any of the bikes. For us, everything, and we do restorations. Been doing a lot of restorations these days. Vintage motorcycles. I have a Lampi right now, 150, which we are restoring. Another Charisma we are restoring. So we do a lot of restorations. So yeah, drop by, and we'll help out. We'll help you out with whatever requirement you have.
Great to have you on this podcast, Sagar.
Yeah, it was great to talk to you. Yeah.
Thanks for listening to this podcast. I want to hear your stories, your motorcycle experiences, what you've been doing, and how motorcycles have made your life better. So if you have something to say, DM us on Instagram, and I'll be more than happy to get you on this podcast.